So we made this video because I had a stupid idea. Well, not stupid, but different. But before we go into all that, if you're new here, I'm Jamie from Moto Central. We sell everything from entry-level commuter kit all the way up to full professional race equipment. Helmets, suits, gloves, boots. If you ride, we stock it. So the other day I thought, what's the most ridiculous, expensive sports setup I could possibly build from what we actually sell? Not sensible, not best value, not what would I recommend, just the most outrageous spec sheet I can physically put together. When you work in a shop like ours, you get a feel for the numbers. You know what premium looks like. You know what race kit costs. You know what makes people wince when they see the total. So in my head, I'm thinking, helmet, probably about £1,000, suit, maybe £3,000, gloves, 300, boots, 400. That's expensive. That's serious money, but it's still within the realm of, yeah, that sounds about right for top-end race kit. I genuinely thought we'd land somewhere around £5,000. £5,000 is already insane for protective clothing. That's a decent used bike. That's a full track season for some people. That's a proper holiday. What I didn't expect was to break £7,000. £7,000 for what you're wearing. Not the bike, not the upgrades, not the van, not the tyres, just the kit on your body. And when you see that number written down, it sounds stupid. It sounds excessive. It sounds like I've completely lost the plot. But when you start pulling the gear down off the rail and you start actually handling it, you start looking at how it's constructed, you start understanding what it's made to actually do. And then you realise something important. This isn't built for riding to work. It isn't built for Sunday blasts. It isn't even really built for casual track days. It's built for something we don't like to talk or think about, and that's the actual crashes. High speed, high grip, high energy, cartwheeling down the tarmac at 150 miles an hour type of crashes. The kind where collarbones snap, where ankles twist in directions they absolutely shouldn't, where shoulders take full impact load, where rotational force becomes just as dangerous as the initial hit. And when you look at it through that lens, £7,000 still hurts, but it starts to make a bit of sense. So in this video, we're not just adding numbers together, we're going to build the setup piece by piece. We're going to talk about what the technology actually does, and then we're going to talk about the specifications of the gear. And we're also going to talk about what still makes me raise an eyebrow, even at this level. Because here's the thing people don't see. When you work around this stuff every day, you get very good at separating marketing from engineering. Some features are there for Instagram or other social media platforms that are also available. Some features exist because someone crashed at 180 miles an hour and the engineer said, that can't happen again. And that's the difference. So today, I'm building the most expensive sports setup we sell, properly. And by the end of this, you can decide whether you'd wear it or whether you'd rather spend £7,000 on another bike instead. Let's start with the helmet. And realistically, there was only one place that I was going to start. The AGV Pista GP RR, £1,250. When I picked it up, I thought, okay, this is where the challenge stops being funny. Now let's clear something up straight away. You can buy an excellent helmet for £400 to £600 these days. Properly safe, comfortable, quiet, brilliant road lids. This is not that. This isn't built for road riders. This is built for race grids. The Pista GPRR is FIM homologated. That's not just a sticker. FIM approval is required for top-level World Championship racing. It means the helmet has passed additional testing beyond standard road certification, especially around rotational forces and oblique impacts. Because here's what most people don't think about. It's not always the straight hit that causes serious brain trauma. It's the twist. When a helmet hits at an angle and your head rotates violently, That rotational acceleration is often what causes the worst injuries. Race standards place much heavier emphasis on that. So this isn't just ECE 2206 compliant. It's built to meet the requirements of the highest level of motorcycle racing on the planet. That changes everything about how it's engineered. Pick it up, and the first thing you'll notice is the weight. It's light, and it's not cheap light. It's purpose-built light. Full carbon shell, not a composite blend, not a mix, carbon. Carbon disperses energy differently. It spreads impact load across the structure, rather than concentrating it into one point. It also allows the shell to stay thinner while maintaining strength. Thinner shell means lower weight. Lower weight means less neck fatigue. At 170 or 180 mile an hour, neck fatigue isn't just discomfort, it affects control. If your head is fighting lift down a straight, that matters. Look at the rear spoiler. That's not styling. At race speed, your helmet becomes an aerodynamic surface. It creates lift. Your head moves. If it creates turbulence, your neck muscles constantly compensate. If airflow destabilizes your vision, your braking markers become less precise. This helmet has been wind tunnel developed to reduce lift and increase stability in a race tuck. And that's the key point. Road helmets are designed for upright or slightly lean forward positions. This is designed for chin on the tank riding. It's a different world. The visor is 5mm thick. That's race thickness. Most road helmets run thinner visors. This one is optical class 1, meaning distortion is extremely low. You get 190 degrees horizontal vision and 85 degrees vertical. The horizontal field is impressive, but the vertical field is what racers care about. When you're in a full tuck, your head is angled down. Your eyes need to look up without you lifting your head. If you lift your head to see braking markers, you create drag and destabilize yourself. Cheaper helmets compromise here. This one doesn't. You genuinely feel how open it is. Now, here's the reality. This is a race helmet. Airflow is strong. 5 front vents and rear extractors. But it's not designed around convenience. You don't get touring style sliders you casually adjust mid-ride. You get vent covers in the box. Because this helmet assumes you're either racing or you're not. And it's loud. Very loud. Race helmets prioritize airflow and aero stability over sound installation. It literally comes with earplugs. That tells you everything. Inside, you've got AGV's 360 adaptive fit system. Interchangeable padding for crown and cheeks. At this level, helmet movement is unacceptable. If your helmet shifts under braking forces or cornering load, that is distracting and dangerous. This system lets you fine-tune the fit beyond just picking a size. Because in racing, close enough isn't good enough. If we're talking ultra premium race helmets in this bracket, there's another serious player. Oh look, here's one I found earlier. The Alpinestars Supertech R10. And I'll be completely honest with you. If this was just me choosing a helmet in isolation, I'd probably go for the Alpinestars. The R10 feels incredibly refined. The detailing is beautiful. The presentation is next level. You get additional spoilers, an extra visor, a proper race bag. It feels like a complete race package. It looks aggressive, it looks modern, and it feels special. Now, performance-wise, both the Pista GPRR and the R10 are operating in the same stratosphere. Both are full carbon, both are FIM homologated, both are designed for extreme race environments. Both are quite loud. Both are uncompromising. You're not choosing between good and better here. You're choosing between two top-tier race tools. At this level, riders don't usually mix brands. If someone's going full race spec, helmet, suit, gloves, boots, they tend to stay within one performance family. And that's important for this build because of the suit that we're about to look at in the next chapter. That choice heavily influences the helmet decision. Most riders spending this kind of money want brand alignment. They want the same development philosophy, the same race heritage, the same pro-level pairing you see on the World Championship grids. So while I personally lean slightly towards the Alpinestars helmet on its own, once you see the suit we're pairing this with, you'll understand why the AGV makes total sense in this setup. So helmet, £1,250. We've protected your brain, we've spent over £1,000, and we haven't even touched your shoulders yet. So when you think racing, what's the first thing that comes into your head? For most people, it's the one-piece suit. The full leather, the knee sliders, the hump on the back. That's the image of racing. So I had a look through the warehouse, and this is what I landed on. The Dainese Mugello 3 DR. $3,999. £4,000 for a suit. And I'm not going to lie, I did just stand there for a second looking at the price tag. Because when you say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous. £4,000 for leather. But then you pick it up, and immediately you realise this isn't just leather. This is wearable race engineering. The first thing you notice is the weight, or more accurately, the lack of it. For something that looks this serious, it feels shockingly light. That's down to the material choice, kangaroo leather. And no, that's not used because it sounds exotic, it's used because it's incredibly strong for its thickness. That means Dainese can use thinner panels without compromising abrasion resistance. Thinner leather means less weight, more flexibility, less fatigue over a race distance. And fatigue is everything. When you're riding at the limit, if you're fighting your suit, you're wasting energy. Energy affects concentration. Concentration affects lap time. Right from the material choice, you can see who this suit is for. It's not built for cafe runs, it's built for race pace. But let's be honest, kangaroo leather isn't why this costs £4,000. The airbag is. This has the DR Racing Shield 3X system fully integrated into the suit. Not zipped in, not added afterwards, built in. The suit constantly monitors your movement through internal sensors. It understands what normal riding looks like. It understands acceleration, braking, lean angle, body position. And it understands what a crash looks like. If it detects crash dynamics, it deploys in milliseconds. When it goes off, it protects the base of your neck, your collarbone, and your shoulders. Now that's important. In high-speed crashes, especially high slides, riders instinctively throw their arms out. The force travels up the arm, and the collarbone takes it. It's one of the most common injuries in racing. Snapped collarbones are almost expected in certain crashes. This system is specifically designed to reduce the impact load, and the 3X part means it can deploy up to 3 times before the gas generator needs replacing. That's serious race capability. This isn't gimmicky tech. This is technology developed at the highest level of motorcycle racing. And the fact it's integrated changes everything. When the airbag is designed as part of the suit, the deployment zones are optimized, the stretch panels are built around it, the weight distribution is balanced. It moves as one unit. With vest systems, sometimes you feel like you're wearing something extra. With this, it feels engineered as a single piece. That's part of what you're paying for. It's not just protection, it's integration. Then you look at the shoulders, the elbows, the knees, titanium plates. Not for style, for physics. When you hit the ground at race speed, you don't want to grip the tarmac. If you grip, you tumble. If you tumble, limbs twist, joints overload, things break. You want to slide. Titanium manages friction. It allows predictable sliding and reduced friction spikes during impact. It helps control energy transfer in a crash. That's why it's there, not just because it looks cool. Dainese talk about pentaxial stretch, 5-direction elasticity. What that really means is that the suit moves with you in ways older race suits simply didn't. When you're fully hanging off in a deep lean, your body is twisted, your torso is rotated, your outside leg locked, your arm extended. If the suit resist the movement, you fight it. If you fight it, you fatigue faster. And fatigue at race pace is dangerous. The back panel stretches in multiple directions at once. When you simulate a race position, it feels natural. It's incredibly hard to engineer in leather. Even the seam construction is deliberate. Fewer seams, better placement, because every seam is a potential failure point under abrasion. Less stitching in high impact areas means less risk of burst failure. It's not flashy, but it's crucial. The neck system is shaped to reduce pressure when you're tucked in at speed, helmet being pushed backwards by airflow. Again, small detail. Massive difference at 170 miles an hour. The suit is designed as a boots-in system. So the boots sit inside the suit rather than over it. Now personally, I prefer boots over. It's simpler, it's what most road riders are used to. But in racing terms, boots in creates a cleaner aerodynamic profile and reduces bunching around the ankle. So it's purpose built. Everything about this suit is purpose built. So beyond the airbag, even if you've stripped the airbag out, this suit is loaded. Composite protectors, soft pro-shape hip protection, thermoformed ankle protection, AAA certification under EN 17092. But honestly, AAA doesn't even fully represent what this suit is capable of. Road certification is almost secondary here. This is built for track crashes. That's the difference. When you hold it, you feel two things. One, it's unbelievably light for what it is. Two, it feels serious. There's no fluff, no pointless styling, no cosmetic stitching. Everything has intent, but it's still £4,000. And this is the moment where the challenge stopped being funny. So helmet plus suit alone, we're already past £5,000. And I remember thinking, we haven't even touched gloves. We haven't even touched boots. And those aren't cheap either. This is where it started to feel slightly terrifying. So at this point, we're already over £5,000. Helmet, suit. Now we're looking at gloves. £399 for gloves. And this is where people usually laugh. 400 quid for gloves, behave. But here's the reality. In almost every crash, your hands hit first. It's instinct. You go down, reach out, or you slide and your hands get dragged along the tarmac. And hands are complicated bits of engineering. Tiny bones, small joints, loads of rotational movement. They're strong for gripping bars. They're not so strong for absorbing 100 mile an hour impact. There are three big issues in motorcycle hand injuries: scaphoid fractures, metacarpal breaks, finger hyperextension or twisting. The scaphoid is the small bone in your wrist that shatters when you brace a fall. And it's a horrible injury. Long recovery, awkward healing, and it often means surgery. That's why serious race gloves heavily reinforce the palm and wrist area, because that's what takes the initial slide force. The full Metal 7 is built from premium goat skin. Goat skin is used because it balances abrasion resistance with feel. Race gloves need protection, but they also need sensitivity. If you can't feel the brake lever at 170 mile an hour, that's a problem. Across the knuckles, you've got titanium ProTech inserts. Same logic as the suit. You don't want to grip the tarmac, you want to slide. If knuckle armour grips, your wrist twists violently. Titanium encourages controlled sliding. You've got aramid reinforcements through the high impact zones. Heat resistant, extremely strong, designed to cope with friction at speed. And then there's the scaffold reinforcement in the palm. That's critical. It has to disperse force and resist abrasion at the same time. That's engineering. Now this is interesting. The full Metal 7 uses Dainese's DCP system on the little finger. Distortion control protection. The little finger is incredibly vulnerable in crashes. It sticks out slightly. It's structurally weaker. It's often the first thing to catch. A lot of race gloves use an external finger bridge to physically connect the pinky to the ring finger. Dainese take a different approach here. The control is engineered internally through the DCP structure, less obvious visually, but designed to reduce unnatural hyperextension and twisting. It's a more anatomical solution rather than visible strap it together solution. When you first put them on, they feel tight, proper race snug. You might even question the size, but race gloves are meant to fit tight because leather stretches with heat and use. Loose race gloves are dangerous. Now let's be honest, you can feel the armour, you can feel the titanium. These are not plush touring gloves. They're protective first, comfort second. At $399, you inspect everything. Stitching, panel alignment, armour placement. Compared to older full metal models, these are a big improvement. The knuckle contour wraps around the hand better. Older versions could feel like your armour sat on top of your hand. These feel more anatomical, less bulky, but still serious. They're level 2 certified under EN 13594. That's the highest CE glove rating. Impact, abrasion, tear strength, seam strength. But race gloves go beyond certification in how they manage sliding behaviour and rotational control. That's the difference at this level. Now at nearly £400, you're not just buying gloves, you're choosing a philosophy. And that's what makes this price bracket interesting, because now we're sitting at around £5,600. Helmet, suit, gloves, and we still haven't talked about boots. Boots are where this total goes from uncomfortable to properly ridiculous. So let's go there. At this point in the challenge, we're already at about £5,500. Helmet, suit, gloves. And now we're looking at boots. Now most riders think boots are simple. Leather, slider, job done. That might be true for road riding. It is not true for race crashes, because ankles are awkward things. They're designed to move forward and back. They're not designed to twist sideways under load at 120 miles an hour when your body is rotating. And when that happens, you don't just sprain it, you spiral fracture it. You tear ligaments, you destroy joint stability, you potentially end your season. So race boots aren't just about abrasion, they're about controlling movement. And this is where this challenge splits in two directions, because the most expensive boots we sell are not necessarily the ones that integrate best with the suit. So option 1 is the most expensive, the Dainese Security Evo system. It's $1,599.99 combined. Let's just say that number again, $1,599.99 for boots. That's more than some people's entire riding kit, and here's why. This is a two-part system. You don't just buy a boot, you buy an inner boot and an outer boot. The inner boot costs £1,000 and the outer boot costs $600. And the reason for that is mechanical protection. So the inner boot is where the real protection happens. The inner boot is basically a brace. It uses a non-twisting hard shell structure reinforced with aramid. It has a riveted hinge joint, and that hinge is crucial because it allows forward flex so you can shift and brake naturally, but it resists lateral torsion. So imagine this scenario. You crash, your foot catches, your body rotates. Without torsion control, your ankle takes a twist. With this system, the boot absorbs and limits that rotational movement. It spreads load through the structure rather than through your ligaments. That's why this exists. It's not about looking aggressive, it's about controlling catastrophic ankle injuries. It also has multi-layer shin protection, shock-absorbing padding, reinforced heel structure, and serious forefoot protection. When you put it on, it feels structured, not stiff like cheap boots. Structured like support. Now the outer boot. This takes the abrasion and impact. The outer boot handles the slide. Tear-resistant kangaroo leather. Replaceable abrasion sliders. Reinforced heel. Elastic zones for controlled movement. The outer takes the punishment. The inner protects the joint. The separation of rolls is what makes the system so effective. These are the most comfortable, serious race boots I've ever tried. And that surprises people because they look intimidating. But once they're on, they feel secure, supported, almost like your ankle is gently locked into alignment. It feels protective everywhere. Shin, ankle, heel, forefoot. There's no weak zone. And that's why they cost what they cost. So the downside, the colour options are limited. And this system doesn't integrate cleanly with Dainese's boot fastening design, which matters because if you're running a Mugello 3D air suit, the ecosystem is built around Dainese's in construction. So while the Daytona system might be mechanically superior in pure ankle protection terms, it doesn't complete the Dainese system as cleanly, which brings us to the second option. The Dainese Axial 2. Now this is where brand ecosystems matter. The Axial 2 is designed to integrate directly into Dainese race suits. The boot goes inside the suit. Velcro fastening system. Clean aerodynamic profile. Now I'll be honest. Personally, I prefer boots over the suit for simplicity. It's easier to live with, it's more practical. But in a race context, boots in gives a cleaner silhouette and reduces material bunching around the ankle. It's purpose driven. The Axial Distortion Control System. This is Dainese's answer to torsion management. Instead of a full brace style inner shell like Daytona, they use an internal carbon and aramid structure that limits excessive twisting. It allows natural forward flex. It restricts lateral collapse. It's protective without feeling like a mechanical cage. And when you walk in them, you notice something interesting. They're surprisingly mobile. For a race boot, they're not overly rigid. That balance is difficult to achieve. So what materials and details are in this boot? Carbon weave structure that actually looks premium, not fake carbon print nonsense. Ground Trax racing sole, designed for peg grip and heat resistance. Replaceable magnesium sliders. Reinforced toe, reinforced heel, CE certified to EN 13634. You also get a speed lacing system internally and a rear zip closure for a secure fit. Everything feels engineered, not decorative. So here's the honest comparison. If I purely cared about maximum ankle protection and comfort, Daytona wins. If I care about complete system integration with this suit, the Axial 2 makes more sense. And that's the direction that riders at this level tend to make. You're not choosing between good and bad, you're choosing between protection philosophy. We'd be wrong not to mention the Supertech R. Huge presence in MotoGP. Separate inner booty system, but sold as one unit rather than two separate purchases. Loads of colour options, which riders care about. In my experience, they feel slightly more flexible than Dainese. Not quite the same structured feel as Daytona, but still extremely capable. But in this particular challenge, the Mugello suit pairing pushes us towards the Axial 2 for the complete setup. And here's the thing. If we chose the Daytona system for the most expensive possible version, we'd add $1,599 to the total, which pushes this setup into a territory that makes you genuinely question life choices. Helmet, suit, gloves, boots. £7,000 for what you're wearing. And that's before you've even turned a wheel. Right, let's add it up properly. So, the total. This is the moment it gets real. Right, let's just breathe for a second, because up to now, we've been talking about engineering, materials, crash dynamics, torsion control, titanium sliding, airbag deployment times. And now we need to actually add this up. And this is the part where I stood there with a calculator and just sort of stared at it for a moment. So here it is. AGV Pista GP RR, £1,250. Dainese Mugello 3 DR, £3,999. The Dainese Full Metal 7, $399. And the Daytona Security Evo Inner, $1,000. And the Daytona Security Evo 3 Outer, $599. So the total, £7,246.99 for protective clothing. not including a bike, not including race tyres, not including entry fees, not including fuel. Just what you're wearing. And when you say that out loud, it sounds absurd. It sounds excessive. It sounds like overkill. It sounds like something only factory riders should even be looking at. But here's where it gets interesting. If you break it down piece by piece, the helmet is built for 200-mile-an-hour aerodynamic stability and world-level homologation. The suit has an integrated airbag system designed to protect collarbones and shoulders in high slide crashes. The gloves are engineered around scaphoid protection and controlled sliding. The boots are literally designed to stop your ankle twisting itself into a spiral fracture. Every single item has a purpose. There's no fluff in this setup. There's no style over substance. It's all there for one thing: managing violence. Because that's what a race crash is: violent, unpredictable, high energy. And this gear exists to control that chaos as much as possible. Now here's the part that really makes people think. £7,000, you could buy a very decent used superbike, a full season of track days, a solid commuter and insure it for a year. Or you could put all this on your body. And that's the debate. Is it worth it? And the answer depends entirely on who you are. If you're a professional racer chasing tenths of a second and trying to minimize injury risk at extreme speed, this starts to look logical. If you're riding to work twice a week and doing the odd Sunday blast, this is beyond excessive. And that's okay, because this setup isn't built for most riders. The no compromise scenario. And what I find fascinating is this: even at £7,246.99, you can still nitpick things. You can still wish the gloves felt slightly softer. You can still prefer boots over the suit. You can still want quieter ventilation, which shows how high the standard is at this level. Nothing is cheap, nothing is casual, nothing is accidental. This is the top of the pyramid. And when I thought, let's find the most expensive kit we sell, I genuinely didn't think that I expected it to land here. Over £7,000 for what you wear. Right, now the real question is, should anyone actually buy this? That's where we finish this properly. So, £7,246.99 for motorcycle kit. Now the obvious question is it worth it? And the honest answer is, for most people, no. And that's not me trying to downplay it, it's just reality. If you ride on the road, if you do the occasional spirited Sunday ride, if you maybe do 1 or 2 track days a year, you do not need this. You can get outstanding protection for a fraction of this price. Helmets that are incredibly safe, AAA rated suits that are brilliant, high quality boots with solid torsion protection, and gloves that will absolutely do the job. There is a point of diminishing returns in motorcycle gear, and once you move into world level race kit, you're paying for very small performance gains and very specific crash scenarios. But here's the other side. If you're racing, properly racing, if you're braking from 170 mile an hour every lap, if you're hanging off at full lean with your elbow on the floor, if you're pushing hard enough that a crash is not if, but when, then this makes sense. Because at that level, small differences matter. Reducing rotational force by a small percentage matters. Reducing collarbone load matters. Controlling ankle torsion matters. Reducing fatigue over race distance matters. The margins are small, but the consequences are big. And that's where this gear lives. It lives in the margins. So the airbag question, is this the future? The biggest conversation piece here is the airbag suit, because 10 years ago, this was factory-only tech. Now it's available to anyone with the budget. And whether people like it or not, airbags are becoming the future of high-performance protection. They manage impact in a way traditional armour simply can't. They cover areas like collarbone and upper chest in ways that leather and foam alone cannot. Will every rider need an airbag suit? No. But will we see more and more riders adopting airbag systems over the next decade? Absolutely. Because once you understand what they're designed to prevent, it's hard to ignore. And here's the part I find most interesting. If someone handed you £7,000, would you spend it on carbon wheels, an exhaust, engine tuning, or the most advanced protective equipment that you could buy? Most riders instinctively spend money on performance upgrades. Faster, louder, more power. Very few riders prioritise safety upgrades at this level. And I'm not judging that. It's just an observation. Because we love speed, we love performance, we love the bike. Spending that kind of money on what you wear doesn't feel as exciting. But if you crash, it's the only thing that matters. Is this setup excessive for road riding? Yes. Is it overkill for most track days? Probably. Is it incredible engineering? Without question. This is what happens when brands remove compromise. When the brief isn't make it affordable. The brief is make it as protective and performance focused as possible. And that's what this is. The top of the pyramid. No budget, no compromise, no apology. £7,000 of race engineering. And honestly, as ridiculous as it sounds, it's fascinating. Because when you break it down piece by piece, you understand why it exists. You might not need it, you might not want it, but you understand it. And that's the point of this video. So now I want to know, if money genuinely wasn't a factor, would you run this setup? Or are you spending £7 on a bike instead? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoy this kind of proper deep dive into high-end race kit, not just specs, but what it actually means, make sure you hit subscribe. We've got loads more like this coming. Thanks for watching, ride safe, and we'll see you in the next one.